We are now joined by Professor Daron Acemoğlu, author or co-author of the book Why Nations Fail, The Origins of Power, Prosperity and Poverty, and Elizabeth and James Killian Professor at MIT. Thank you for joining us at this year's St. Gallen Symposium.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks. Starting with the first question, the topic of this year's St. Gallen Symposium is proudly small. In your book, Why Nations Fail, you greatly focus on institutions. Is it especially important to focus on inclusive institutions for a small country compared to a larger one?
I think inclusive institutions are more a framework in which politics can be performed via a broad distribution of political power in society and a good system of civil society and institutional checks on the power of politicians and other elites in society. So viewed as a framework like that, I think it's important both for large and small countries. But it's particularly important for small countries because I think their comparative advantage is often going to be in trade and economic integration. And for this, adapting your institutions in the right way to make the best of the country's specific skills, location, and resources becomes especially important.
To stick with the topic of institutions, do you think inclusive institutions are a model of the past, or is it still a model for success in the 21st century, for example, if we look at China today?
I think, again, my answer would have to go back to the notion that inclusive institutions are a framework. So if you ask the question about whether a particular policy, like social security organized during the latter part of the 19th century and then ostensibly developed in the 20th century, is the right sort of arrangement for the 21st century, most likely not. Many policies will have to be adapted. But if you think of inclusive political institutions as a framework for resolving a country's political conflicts, I think it's as alive and as relevant for the 21st century as it was for the 19th or the 20th. Of course, there will be alternatives, and China tries to present an alternative of an economic system that is somewhat inclusive, but supported by a political system that what we call is very extractive, based on the control of the Chinese Communist Party and the limitation of dissent. But I think that system is going to run into problems as it becomes more and more apparent that innovation and openness are crucial for the 21st century as they were for the 20th, but they will become even more important for China as it goes to the next stage of its economic development.
Okay, thank you. Coming to the last question, in Europe there's currently a big discussion around the topic of migration. So do you think migration has a positive or a negative effect on a country's ability to innovate?
I think this is a difficult question because it has many facades. I believe that though the evidence is not overwhelming, combining diverse opinions, backgrounds, problem-solving abilities would be great for innovating, especially for problem-solving innovations. And bringing migrants is a great way of bringing this diverse set of expertise and perspectives. We don't have great evidence on it, but the existing evidence suggests that such combination of different viewpoints is quite productive. But migration also has political aspects. When you're trying to integrate migrant communities, I think this has major political implications. And I think there one has to be very careful because Europe's recent experience with migration has not always been very successful, because partly the integration of people and providing them both the right opportunities and the right incentives has not been an easy process. So I think taking that into account, the migration problem has to be discussed as a political problem also. And I am hopeful that Europe, as the United States, can continue to be a fruitful home for migrants, but this cannot be a blind decision without taking into account the whole integration process and its political implications into account.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and enjoy the St. Gallen Symposium.
Thank you very much.